to Off Limits. Liberal, irreverent, and really, really gay.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Off Limits Show. It's me, Donovan. Sorry about that. It's me, Donovan, your host, and thanks for listening to me tonight on the show. It has been a few weeks since I've done a show by myself, and I wanted to do a show tonight about Trump. I have waited a few weeks to actually talk about this issue on this show because it has been so upsetting to me, and I wanted to talk about it and give it its due. I had to speak about it. I mean, anyone who knows my show knows I would have talked about this, and I'm talking about it now. So I wanted to get it out of the way while I could do so. You have to excuse me, my voice is a little off tonight because I took this medication and it makes my throat close up. It's like hard to swallow. So it's not the ideal time to do a show, but I had to get this out of the way. I had to talk about Trump and what I feel about it, and uninterrupted and one-on-one. So here we go. By the way, if you want to know more about me, you can go to offlimitsshow.com. I need to update the site. It's been a while, but you can go there. You can also listen to the show on iHeartRadio if you go to iHeartRadio.com, or on your iPod if you want to listen through iTunes. It's on iTunes as well, or on SiriusXM if you have in your car if you have iHeartRadio. So feel free to listen there, and also, of course, on Spreaker, SPREAKER.com. Look for Off Limits Show there, and you'll find me there as well. Excuse me. And also, you can go to Facebook and look at Off Limits Show or Off Limits Show, Off Limits space show or Off Limits Show, all one word. Both of them are me. And you can also find me on Twitter. So anyway, please forgive me as I am dry and swallowing throughout the show. Getting a drink after drinking my swell bottle. Anyway, so let's talk about Trump. So I don't know how many of you listen to my other show that I'm on, Gay XYZ, but I've talked about it briefly on there. But I'll just quickly reiterate what I said on that show about the night it happened. You know, when I voted, of course, for in the primaries, I voted for Bernie Sanders. The reason I voted for Bernie Sanders was because I believed in his message. I believed in what he was trying to accomplish. He lit a fire under a lot of Democrats and a lot of liberals. And I felt he could get things done and be a true contender against whomever the Republican nominee was going to be. Ultimately, that ended up being Donald Trump, but Bernie Sanders was cheated essentially out of his election or as the elected candidate for the Democratic Party by the DNC, because they really cheated him and fucked him over. Debbie Schultz, look her up, Wasserman Schultz, actually, and you'll see what he did. But this is not just hyperbole and someone just talking out of their ass. This is the truth. This is really what happened to him, and it is unseemly what they did to him, egregious even. And so he should have been the one that was running against Donald Trump, but we ended up with Hillary Clinton. Now, I did not vote for Hillary Clinton in either election, as in the primaries. In the primaries in 2008, 2012, I voted for Barack Obama, even though she was running against him the first time, I think, yeah. And so So I didn't vote for her this time either. Now, Hillary Clinton is not a horrible person as far as I know. I mean, she's just not. She's sort of like milk toast, or something. She's just kind of like blah. I mean, she's there, and she's done a lot in her career for children and for civil rights and that sort of thing, as much as she could, I think, in her career. And she, of course, was instrumental in helping to capture what's his name, Hussein. What the fuck's his name? Oh my god, what's wrong with me? Oh my god, you know what I'm talking about. The dude from 9/11. My brain is not working. I shouldn't have done a show this late. But anyway, Bin Laden, thank you. Osama bin Laden, that's his name. She was instrumental in catching him. So she has done a lot in her career, and she's really devoted her life to politics. And so when she ended up being the nominee, of course, I put all my weight behind her, as little as it may be, to actually hope that she would become the candidate, because for God's sakes, I did not want Donald Trump to win. Now, everyone was saying, or not everyone, but a lot of people were saying Donald Trump's never going to win the election. And I never thought that he was not a contender. But people would say that to me, I would say, well, I don't know. Americans are pretty fucking stupid. And I was afraid that Americans would actually vote for him. And there are a lot of, as I said then, there are a lot of people in the red states in between all of the country, the cities that would vote for him. And you add them all up together, it adds up to a lot of people. So anyway, ultimately that night, election night on November 8th, we sat there. We sat there in front of the TV, ready for hopefully another historic moment in America when we would elect our first female president, consequently, because it would be her that won, hopefully. And the night began, the first hour or two, pretty much looking like she was going to win. Then things turned sour, and she did not win Florida, and she didn't win all of those Rust Belt states up in Wisconsin and everything, and Pennsylvania, which she was predicted to win all of those states. And anyway, she ended up not winning, obviously, and I was sick to my stomach, literally sick to my stomach, and ill and angry and sad and depressed and afraid, because I was like, what is going to happen in America, in this country, if we have someone who is a racist, homophobic, xenophobic, sexist, asshole, liar, and orange running this country? If he gets the people he wants in office and on the Supreme Court, and he gets the things done that he has promised he would do, one of which was to repeal all of the rights that we as gay people have gained over these years. If he actually succeeds in achieving that, then my life will be incredibly different in the future, because he will have actually terminated my marriage to my husband, invalidated it, whatever, ultimately, and the health benefits that we share will no longer be able to be shared between us, and we'll have to get our own individually. And all of the tax rights and everything else, everything that comes with marriage, we will no longer be able to have. And that includes the peace of mind, knowing that we are here to protect one another and for each other, we're family. So that was one thing. Not to mention, of course, the civil rights we will no longer have and protections under the law in terms of just being gay and being protected from discrimination in employment and other things as well. So the list is very long and endless, but the things that he is trying to do just in the gay community alone is incredibly frightening. And I begin to think, what is the next step with this? Does it mean that we will be second-class citizens? Yes, we will be second-class citizens, as we already are, but not hardly like we once were. And he has put in his cabinet, as his chief of staff, a known white supremacist whom has been part of the KKK and white supremacist neo-Nazi movement. And he has put as his vice president a man who says that gays should be sent to reparative therapy and should no longer be able to be married, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, he has put around him Sarah Palin and the moron from Morons and the other people like Giuliani and Chris Christie and these people who are the stupidest people. I mean, really, they are the dumbest people in the Republican Party. And the only reason, and also, what's his name? The black guy, the doctor that always has his eyes closed, Dr. Ben Carson, that's his name. Ben Carson, trying to get these people into his cabinet, or that's what he's planning to do, although Ben Carson has declined, I think. These people are going to make hell for anyone who is not like them. Anyone who's not, 1, Republican, 2, a bigot, 3, a racist, 4, white, 5, wealthy, and 6, anyone who isn't a Christian. So if you're not all of these things, or especially one of these things, but all of these things, then you're definitely not going to be on their list of people they're looking out for. And unfortunately, this means that most of America will be left behind. Now, the problem I've had since this election is that I have had, of course, so many people who have been angry and upset with liberals. And, as you know, there have been, tons and tons of protests, people protesting Trump's election and protesting his cabinet and his picks and everything else and his policies. And this is the same kind of thing that was happening, of course, when Barack Obama was put into office. Now, this time, however, the difference is that Barack Obama did not take anyone's rights away, nor did he ever say that he would. Donald Trump is doing just that and promising to do that. And therefore, there are a lot of people who are trying very hard to convince liberals that we are being babies. And the problem with that argument is first of all, we're not whining, or I'm not specifically whining about, I'm not whining about why that fact that we lost the election in terms of liberal versus conservative or Democrat versus Republican. That isn't the issue. George Bush, when he won in 2000, I was like, what the fuck? People are so fucking stupid. And I was right about him as well. He's fucking up the economy and the country in a lot of ways, but I accepted that he was our president, and whatever. It was we lost. Okay, I moved on. I never liked him, but I moved on. This is different because of now we're talking about people's rights, civil rights being taken away. Not just gay people, but immigrants and the rights of people of different religions and women in general, and just anyone, as I said, who's not a heterosexual white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male, then you're definitely in trouble. And the people who are voting for Trump are stupid. And I say that they're stupid. And I've gotten into so much flack for saying people who vote for Trump are stupid because, well, they are. This is not just a matter of opinion, but to think that the people who put him into office, which primarily were white, working class people in middle America, or people in the middle counties and that were not in the main cities, and people who were not that well educated generally, and even though some of them were, a lot of suburbanites did as well vote for him, who were, really racist or homophobic or whatever the reason, these people who voted for him, to think that he has their best interest at heart, they're fucking morons. And it's even further than that. The main issue I have is that people would vote for a man whom has been proven to be, both by his own admission, both by his actions and his own admission, as well as proven in the media and his history before he ever even ran for president, to be a racist, homophobic, xenophobic asshole, sexist asshole. And yet people still voted for him. People in my own family voted for him. People in my husband's family voted for him. People, friends of ours, I guess you could call them that, voted for him. And yet they're trying to somehow consider themselves to love us and to care about us and our well-being. And this goes for everyone in this country who I've mentioned thus far. If someone votes for Trump, they're voting against you if you don't fit into that mold I mentioned earlier. If someone votes for Trump, they're voting against your civil rights and my family and who I am. And so goddamn right, I'm fucking pissed about that. Yes, I'm pissed about it. I have every fucking right to be. I have every right to be. If you're fucking with my civil rights, you're fucking with my life, my livelihood, as well as the economy and everything else is going to be fucked up as a result of this. And my businesses are all directly related to the economy. So I'm fucking scared about what's coming up in the future with Trump as president, because I should be. And anyone who isn't is a fucking moron. That is the truth. That is not an opinion. That is the truth. Because if you're not afraid, then that means you're part of his group of people, and therefore maybe you don't have a reason to be afraid. But most people in this country do. I have a relative who I spoke to on. she's my husband's nephew's wife, and I like her a lot. She's a real sweet girl and everything. But the problem I've always had, and this is one of the issues of being me, and this is part of what's in my memoir, my book, and one of the main threads of my book, is that I am biracial, and I am gay, and I am liberal, and I live in Dallas, Texas, and was raised here and in East Texas as well throughout my entire life. And so I've been around a bunch of hicks and rednecks and racists all my life, including people in my own family, extended family generally. So I understand the mindset of people from the country because I grew up there. I understand the mindset of people from the city because I grew up here too, and I live here now. And I understand the mindset of these people because they are my family, they are my friends, they are people that I've known my entire life. So I understand them inside and out. I understand both sides of the coin better than most people ever could, being what I am and where I grew up and how I grew up. So I understand these people, yeah, and I have a love for them. I have a love for the South. I have a love for the country. I have a love for this way of life in general, the basics, of it. But I don't have a love for the racism and the hatred and the homophobia and the bigotry and the two-facedness and all the things that come with being in the South as well. But one side of it, of course, is a beautiful way of life and a meaningful, profound way to live one's life. And I know that because, as I said, I grew up around it, and I know what I feel as a result of being someone who did. But because of that, I've always been put into the middle. I've always been someone in the middle between the people in my family, whether it's my family or my extended family through my husband, between them who still think the way that most country folk think, which is limited and bigoted, and the other side of my family and my friends, which is urbane and intellectual and liberal. So I'm always in the middle. And so whenever I speak out and say what I think about Trump or about anyone that's trying to curtail people's rights, whether it's my rights or anyone else's, I get in a lot of trouble because the people who are surrounding me, half the people surrounding me are bigoted. And even though they're bigoted, I still think that they can be a good person and they're deep in their heart. But it doesn't mean that they're excused for being a bigot or a racist or whatever. And even if they themselves are not bigots or racists, and that's not why they voted for Donald Trump, the fact that you vote for Donald Trump knowing that he himself is a racist and a bigot and a xenophobe and a sexist, and or even if you don't agree with that he has spewed these racist, homophobic, xenophobic, sexist things throughout his campaign, knowing the things that he is planning to do with his platform, and still voting for that man and for his cabinet and for that Republican party, knowing all those things and still voting for him, knowing your uncles or your nephews or your cousins or your aunts or your friends are gay, lesbian, transgender, bi, or black or Hispanic or Asian or immigrants or women or anyone who is not what I mentioned earlier, then you are saying that is okay with you. Your vote says that is okay with me. That everything that Trump stands for and has said is okay with me. That is what you're saying when you vote for Donald Trump, because your vote is effectively an approval of his platform and the things he has said and done. That is what your vote means. And a lot of people will say, well, I voted for Trump because, well, he fiscally or financially or because of this one issue. Well, the problem voting one issue is that there's no such thing as one issue in politics, because when you vote for a party or you vote for a candidate, you're voting on several issues. And you have to decide for yourself which issue is the most important to you. And if you voted because you hate Hillary Clinton, for whatever reason, I don't understand. But if you hate Hillary Clinton so much that regardless of that Donald Trump could do nothing, he can fucking murder your goddamn dog and you still vote for him, even though his policies are egregious and completely anti-gay and anti-everything else, then if that's why you vote for him and you still do that, then you're a fucking racist, homophobic asshole. And I'm sorry that you think somehow that you're excused because you say you voted for other reasons, but you're not. Because the ultimate outcome from one's vote for any candidate is what that candidate ends up doing. And if Donald Trump ends up doing the things that he says he's going to do, and not just on one issue, but all of them or any of them, then we are fucked, and you fucked us over. So I have no qualms about telling people how I feel. And so this relative of mine, my nephew's wife, on her page, she and I talk and everything, on there occasionally, just chat, casually, whatever. And I see her whenever I go down and visit them with my husband in Waco for holidays and things like that. And they come up here, whatever. Well, she hasn't, but anyway, point is that so she, on her page, she had mentioned something, and I said something. She said she's talking about what should I make for dinner, and I said Trump stew. Just kidding, it was the night before the thing, And then one of her relatives or friends, one of her country folk bumpkin friends, said something like, oh, fucking whining liberals, and just get the fuck over it, or something like that. And I don't know, something, I can't remember everything he said. I have it somewhere, but I can't remember exactly what he said. And I responded saying, well, if you vote for Trump, then you're a racist, homophobic bigot anyway, so I don't really give a fuck what you think, or something like that. And so she deleted both of our posts, and I was like, okay, fine, it's her page, she can delete it. I didn't even say anything to her about it. I was like, it's her page, and she doesn't want it. She has animosity or acrimony on her site. I get that. So I was like, whatever. I let it go. And then 3 days later, I noticed that she had actually removed me from her friends list. So I would not remove someone from my friends list because we have a disagreement over politics, but I would remove someone from my friends list if we have a disagreement over voting in someone who's going to remove my civil rights or whatever. So I don't know that she actually voted for Trump. I don't know that her husband did, who's our nephew. I don't know if her family did, but I think that they probably did because they're from a place that would have elected Trump president. Waco is a very Baptist, because Waco has Baylor, and it's a very Baptist in religious city and town, I should say. And it is filled with a lot of racists and a lot of people who are homophobic and whatever, against immigrants or whatever. And I'm not saying the whole town's that way. It's not. But it is certainly a large portion of it. And I know this because I see this from my own experience growing up in a town much smaller than Waco even. When I was spending my summers in East Texas with my grandmother every summer as a kid and living there sometimes as a child, I recognize this mentality. And it's interesting to me because they've never really said anything to me about it or anything like that. But I've always felt this underlying tone of this undercurrent of what's the word? Bigotry. And it's not like they're bigots per se. It's just that they're affected by the culture that's around them. They live in a bubble. And Waco's definitely a bubble. And anywhere we live, to some degree, can be a bubble if you don't actually broaden your horizons. And I've talked about this many times in the past as well. This is why people are racist or homophobic or whatever, because generally they don't know any. And they live in a bubble where people are telling you constantly, this is wrong, this is evil, this person's wrong, this is wrong, this person's evil. All blacks are lazy, all blacks are going to rob you, all gays are deviant and disgusting, and all women should be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, and all immigrants are taking our jobs, and all this bullshit, all this stuff that's just fed to them that they don't even bother to check on and read for themselves. They internalize all of this homophobia and racism and everything else, xenophobia and sexism. They internalize it, and ultimately comes out in the way they vote and the way they live their lives. And that would happen to anyone who's not strong-minded or has a strong, will about them. And most people just think it's just easier to go with the flow than it is to rock the boat. And so they don't even try to, even if they think differently, they don't even try to speak up and say, well, I think differently. No, they actually just continue to do it anyway. And for me, I find no respect in that. I don't respect people who are like that, because it's so easy, like I just said, just rest on your laurels and let everyone else fight the fight for whatever cause it is that should be fought. It is so easy to just sit back and say, well, let's just, let them do what they're going to do, and I'm not going to give a fuck because it doesn't affect me directly. When, that is the Republican attitude, that we do what we can for ourselves and fuck everyone else, basically. The Democratic or liberal mindset is that we do what's best for everyone, not just for me. And therein lies the huge distinct difference between Republicans and Democrats, between liberals and conservatives, between Trump supporters and Hillary Clinton supporters. This is the difference. And that is why people who voted for Trump didn't give a fuck if it fucked up my life, even if they're family members, or fucked up the lives of others. But that hurts me. It hurts my husband. It hurts my family. It hurts me emotionally, and it hurts me in a literal, in a sense of how it affects my life. And so that is why I and so many others are so fucking angry about people who voted for Trump, because they don't give a fuck about anyone but themselves, and they're racist or homophobic or whatever. So I don't know how many times I can say the same fucking thing over and over again, but I wanted to say that. So I am disappointed in people for having voted this man into office. Now, first of all, it is true that Hillary Clinton has like 2 million more votes, the popular votes, than in the Electoral College, or than Trump does, excuse me. And Trump has more electoral votes. So the question is, and has become, and Barbara Boxer has raised this as an actual issue, should we get rid of the Electoral College? And I've said for many, 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 many years that yes, we should. The only 2 times it's happened in recent history where the Electoral College voted for one candidate and the popular vote voted for another was Al Gore and Hillary Clinton this year. Both Democrats. So Republicans love the Electoral College because that's how they get in office. They don't get in the office by popular vote. They get in the office by the Electoral College. And this is why it should be abolished. And Barbara Boxer has raised a bill that should immediately abolish the Electoral College. Now, it's probably not going to ever happen. It requires a constitutional amendment and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. But the only reason they ever created the Electoral College to begin with was because the white slave owners wanted to prevent slaves from ever voting or whatever, or their votes ever being counted as people. They were counted as 1/3 of a person or something at the time. Excuse me, by law. And also because there was so much space in between the country at the time, and people, it was an agrarian society. Most people lived in the country or whatever, and farmers and that sort of thing throughout the nation. Even though it was small, it was still very spread out and big. They couldn't have everybody just come there and cast their vote. They couldn't get on eBay or not eBay. Facebook or anything and actually place their vote. They had to actually mail it in or walk it there or whatever. So it took months and months and months to get one vote. So anyway, this is a way that they decided would be to represent each person's vote by a representative in Congress or the Electoral College, rather, to represent these people in each state. And so each state would have a more balanced approach in terms of number of votes. Now, that's no longer an issue, none of that, and so there's no reason we should still have it. And popular vote, basically what that means is that during the presidential election, your vote doesn't fucking matter. All it matters is the Electoral College votes. Your vote doesn't matter. Popular vote's just there for ceremony. Did you not realize that? It is the only votes that really matter in terms of the presidential election is when you're voting on off years for the Congress and for Senate and House of Representatives, whatever. that is when your vote matters for the presidential election. So it's very kind of twisted unless you really know how the system works, that your vote, when you're voting for president, to vote for president, you really need to vote in the party you would assume you'd want in office 2 years before the presidential election. So if you want the Electoral College to represent your vote for president, vote for congressional and Senate people who will actually represent your side of the aisle on off years, not during the presidential election, because of the Electoral College. So that is the way this country works. It's a republic, a democratic republic. It's not a democracy. And people, are told that all the time, that it's a democracy. I even had an argument once with someone. Her name was Gila, and she was a bitch anyway, but whatever. We had this argument about George Bush at the time, years ago, and she said, well, this is a democracy, and blah, blah, blah. I was like, this is not a democracy, bitch. This is not a democracy. This is a republic. This is a democratic republic. It's not the same thing. And what do you mean it's not a democracy? And so, people just are not educated about it. And I think if you're not fucking educated about politics, you shouldn't fucking vote. And that's not going to stop you, because you have a right to vote. But if you're not going to use your vote for something that's educational, make an educated guess or something, make an educated vote, then don't fucking vote, because you're just going to fuck over a country like Donald Trump's going to do now. He is putting on, one of the Supreme Court nominees he's trying to put on is actually has a past as his nudie pics or whatever he has. And this guy is completely anti-gay. I can't remember his name. His wife, Donald Trump, the First Lady of the United States, is going to be an immigrant from Russia, someone he and his entire platform is against immigrants. And when they say immigrants, it's really a code word for Mexicans, of course, and Muslims probably. But she has a past as a prostitute and as an escort, I believe, and porn. So she is certainly not the ideal that I would want for president. Now, if that had been Michelle Obama, who had her past, can you even begin to fathom the kind of shit and hell Republicans would have raised had it been Michelle Obama, who'd been a former prostitute, porn star, and possible escort? Yeah. To say that there's not a double standard with these idiots is ridiculous. And they say, oh, well, when Obama was in office and when we didn't have any issue with it, Republicans or whatever. Okay, that's why they were hanging up, Obama in a tree, mannequins and that kind of thing. And they were saying Obama and calling Michelle Obama an ape in heels and things like that. Yeah, they really loved it. And the signs in Obama and give us our country back or all that kind of bullshit. So it is just, I guess the bottom line is this, is that they also should say, since Trump has become the president-elect, there has been an enormous surge in anti-gay and racist rhetoric and assaults and in this country, and it's all over the news everywhere. And racists are now emboldened to be racist, because whereas before, they like to call themselves a silent majority. Well, they're silent. They were silent about their racism and their homophobia is what they were silent about. And now they're emboldened to just speak out and be completely, open about their hatred and their anti-gayness and their anti-everything else. These people are fucking monsters. And these are the people who are going to be running the country. So when I say to people that I'm scared about concentration camps, not that big of a leap, honestly, not that big of a leap. When they say that they want to force gays to get reparative therapy, or they want to force all the immigrants out of the country and actually block them from coming back in. And, I will say what has been said already many, many times, but just remember that all of these things, these exact same things happened in Nazi Germany. Nazi Germany was enjoying a huge, a lot of freedom at the time. It was a lot of freedom, sexual freedom, and gays were very open and everything at the time. It was just very free at the time. But the economy was sucking, and people, and just for some people, and they felt that they were disenfranchised, and they were not being taken care of by the system. And so swoops in Hitler, who feeds on that hatred and that fear, and makes an entire country, his subjects by becoming chancellor, being voted chancellor or whatever, and then becoming a dictator, and killing over 6 million Jews and 1 million gay people and lots of other people, not to mention all the people who just died in the war itself. So this is not a huge leap when I say that these kinds of things could happen in a country with Donald Trump as president. And right now people may say, oh, you're being ridiculous, you're overreacting, whatever. No, I'm not. You're underreacting is the problem. And that's what pisses me off, is that I'm here screaming at the top of my lungs in the middle of a room and no one's listening or paying attention to me, as well as millions of other people in this country who are doing that with protests and other things. And no one's listening. No one's listening. People are going to regret it in the future. I'm not saying that these things necessarily will come to head, as I've said, but something bad is coming in this country. I feel it, and it's scary. That's why I'm saving all my money. That's why I have gotten guns. That's why I'm building an arsenal, basically. That's why I am making sure my passport's in order. That's why I'm making sure all these things are ready, so that if I have to leave, I will leave, and we will leave together and go somewhere we're accepted as a fucking human being and not a fucking second-rate class citizen. So if you voted for Trump, fuck you. If you voted for Trump, you're a fucking asshole. You're a fucking idiot. And you don't even fucking realize it. You're a fucking moron. If you voted for Trump, you have fucked over so many people in this country, and not only this country, but the fucking world. That you get everything. I hope you get everything that you deserve, whomever you are, because it's because of you that our lives are going to change for the worse. And I have said also that, I think I even posted it the other day. There was this sticker or whatever that had a gay person kicking the ass of a Confederate person, someone who likes like a redneck or whatever, and a racist Confederate person. And it was, I posted it on my page, and I said, don't think just because we dress well, we're fabulous, we're fun, and we're great company, that we are pussies. Because this fucking homosexual motherfucker will fight back. I've said before, if anything ever happens to where I have to fight for my fucking life or for my rights, I'm a fucking fighting bitch. And I mean, it's already inside me. You just have to, basically awaken the beast inside me, and people will fucking regret it, because I am not going to play with my life, my rights. So, and that's one reason. I mean, I'm not someone who likes guns, but I think you should have the right to have one, whatever. But if I have to start carrying a gun all the time, then I will. Because of all this hatred towards gay people and towards people who are not, like everyone else that voted for Trump, I will. And I will protect myself. And I do live in a stand your ground state, Texas, and if I have to fucking shoot somebody, I will. Now, I won't kill them intentionally, but if I have to shoot them in the fucking leg to get them away from me or whatever, I will. And if I have to kill them to protect myself or my family, I will. So I am not going to fucking play with these fuckers. So I am frightened, and I am pissed, and I am not going to have any of this fucking shit anymore. We've worked way too long and too hard for the rights that we have gotten over these years, and to have it all undone by some racist bigot motherfucker in the White House is not going to happen. Now, even if it does happen, though, it's not going to stay, and things are going to change. And so that's the thing. Last thing I want to say before I go is, people are like, I'm gonna move to Canada, I'm gonna move away or get out of the country or the state or whatever. And I say, stay and fight, because that is the only way that we can change the way things are going to go. The only way we can change, and people need us. People need us to fight for them. Not everyone can fight because they don't have either the money or the because they don't have the time or they don't have the ability or whatever, people need you to fight for them, for their rights, because they can or they don't have the time or the money to do so. So if you have those things or one of those things, then you should do what you can to use your voice to make a difference in the impending doom that is about to come down on this country. So I hope that you will use your voice, and whether that's writing or talking on a talk show or on TV or running your congressman or your senator or getting involved in politics locally or nationally or however you can do it, do it. Don't just sit back on your, rest on your laurels and expect your fucking civil rights and liberties to be free, because you have to fucking fight for them. People have fought for them all of these years, and we're still having to fight for them today to keep them. So don't let Trump fuck us over. Fight back. And that's what I have to say. Thanks for listening. Good night.